I want to ask you about some unpopular opinions
Okay.
that foreigners and expats have said
Okay.
about Korea.
Yes.
And these opinions are not quite welcomed by Koreans, and
Yes.
many Koreans may not agree.
Okay.
But it is, in fact, some opinions said by foreigners and expats, visitors alike. Okay, so number one, Korean is easy to learn.
I don't think Korean is easy to learn at all. Wait,
What do
they
you think?
Korean is easy to learn?
Yeah. So
And
let's
this
say,
is unwelcome by Koreans? They think it's a hard language to learn?
well,
Was that
what do you think?
I don't think Korean is an easy language to learn at all because of the 존대, and then there's so many nuances to Korean, and also again the 존대, depending on who you're talking to, you have to change the wording. So in that sense, I don't think Korean is easy to learn. And also, yeah, I never thought Korean was an easy language to learn, in my opinion.
Yeah. So here's what I think. I think Korean is easy to learn the basics, to communicate and to survive. But if you want to really maybe climb the social ladder or know how to land a deal with your employer to convince them of a certain argument that you have, that's like another level which will take years and years of studying and getting used to the culture.
Yeah.
But I think learning the basics, I think that's what a lot of the foreigners were trying to get at. The basics of the Korean language is easier compared to other languages.
I could see that point, but for me, when I came back from the US and I would turn on TV in Korea, the news, I could not understand it. So what I'm saying is English, when you turn on CNN or BBC, it's very speaking English. They don't like speak in news language, you know what I mean?
See.
In Korea though, if you turn on the news, they use really difficult words that's like based in Chinese letters like Hanja.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of concentration, even for me, even after been living here for 11 years, to actually really fully understand what they're talking about. So in that sense, I think Korean is much harder.
Yeah.
Because English, the conversational English is almost everywhere. Talk shows, debates, news shows, and everywhere. So I feel like English in that sense is easier. Korea, if you want to understand what they're talking about on TV, like in debates or like in news, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So
I agree.
in that sense, we don't use conversational Korean in news.
Yeah.
So then in that sense, I think it's a difficult language.
That's a good point. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what about this one? Some other foreigners said because Koreans like to compare themselves with other people so much that they started comparing themselves to other people and started to feel like they lack a lot of things now. For example, because this person did like, I don't know, aesthetics in their face. They got like I don't know, Botox done or injection done. Now I would have to want to get one done. But you know, back in wherever they're from, they never even considered it once.
Yeah, we are a very comparing culture, I admit. I struggle with that as well. We feel also like if someone's 잘 나가, if someone's having a good life, it's so evident. I think it's just Korean people care a lot about what they look on the outside because we already know everyone is so interested with each other. In the US, I felt like we are praised for your individualistic attributes. In Korea, you're not really looked in a positive light if you're standing out. Everyone kind of has to do the same thing, go with the flow, go with the majority. If you don't, I feel like you get targeted. Yeah, people in Korea do compare a lot, and I feel like the comparing thing is inevitable because we are such a small country with a highly populated people. But I just feel like it's unfortunate that people always tend to compare with the better off people than the lesser off. You know what I mean? Just being very envious all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, comparing itself is just inevitable if you're living in Korea because we are such a tightly knit community and we are a culture of Cheong. We if we're friends, we want to know everything about each other kind of thing. There is no like boundaries, I feel like in the States where there's like a healthy distance between you and I and between other people. In Korea, it's like if you're friends, like you kind of want to know everything about each other, and so if you know so much about the other person, you can't help but compare yourself and the other. So I think that's how the comparing culture gets even worse.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my perspective.
Okay, thank you for that. Interesting. What about this? Korean education system is competitive but very flawed.
Isn't that and flawed? Competitive and flawed? What is the but?
So I think
flawed because it's competitive.
they were saying competition is good. You know, competition is it's what makes other people do better. Other companies and businesses, they're always competing against each other for a better product and things like that, right?
Right.
But that in itself is good. But how and which direction the competition is going is flawed, is what many people are saying. One example would be how Korean education tends to focus a lot on knowledge and understanding rather
Instead of
than
creativity,
critique thinking,
Yeah.
problem solving, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think it's overly competitive, and for the wrong reasons. As a mom, when I talk to other moms, a lot of them have the same idea of what they want their kids to become in the future.
What do they want to
Which
become?
is the most 안정적인, which is the most stable job ever.
Okay.
Which is the doctor, the public official, and the lawyer type of thing.
Okay.
So because everyone wants their kids to fall into those categories in terms of employment, I feel like everyone's just competing against each other because they want the same thing for their children. So I feel like that's where it gets overly competitive. And that's where I feel like it's flawed because it's like, for me, it's like, I'm talking about even with moms who have their child in kindergarten. Like, how much do we know about our child enough to have a roadmap for them in terms of career? But a lot of them already kind of do, which was the most surprising thing for me. It's not an open book. It's more like I want this and this for my kid. And so I already am looking into how I'm going to, what kind of institutions they have to go to, how I'm going to teach, what kind of like academies they're going to have to go to succeed in that area. So I feel like they are overly competitive because everyone kind of wants the same career for their kids.
So since we're talking about education for kids, you said you have 2 kids.
Yes.
And you're also raising them in Korea. And you were also talking about Korean moms were very competitive. And
Yes.
when it comes to choosing the right hagwons for them to study in and things like that, do you also send your kids to these hagwons? Do you follow the Korean moms of the education plans?
I don't. And I was very stressed for the longest time because like I said before, no one likes it when you're standing out too much. No one likes it when you're doing something that's out of their norm in Korea.
Okay.
And I was out of their norm because I wasn't sending my kids to academies. And I mean, I feel like the biggest struggle that I had was I don't judge. I just disagree. I don't judge other mothers for sending their kids into their academies. they were raised differently than I was. They didn't grow up in the US like I did. So I don't know, I can't judge that their way of educating their kid is wrong, right? It's just different than mine. And I respect that, but I feel like I didn't get the same respect back because a lot of people were telling me what to do. And I don't think they were happy about the fact that I wasn't doing what everyone else was doing.
So they were telling you like
You have
보내야 돼.
They're like, you're gonna regret it.
Oh, okay.
You have to send your kid to this academies or else you're gonna fall behind and you're gonna regret it. And I've heard this so many times from so many different moms who obviously are saying out of a good mind. I think they do want to they want the best for me because
So they have
feel
good
like
intentions.
in the beginning I felt because they know I'm from the US and they probably think she might not know like how the education system works in Korea. So that's what I thought in the beginning. But when it became too repetitive, when I already told them that I'm just gonna go this way because I feel like this is right, there was a point when they were telling me too much, too many times. When I said, I'm not gonna go in that direction. So that's when I started getting really stressed. And I wanted to distance myself from, I'm not saying all moms are like that, but that was just my personal experience, the one experience that I had with a group of moms here. But this might be also particular to the area that I live in, which is very, all the moms are very into education. I don't think this speaks for all of Korea, but the city that I live in right now is 학군지, which means a lot of moms live here for the education.
I see.
To provide best education for their
Kind of
kids.
like 대치동 of Busan.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So
I see. So are you still dealing with that stress or have you overcome it? Is this a while ago or is this still
I
happening?
have overcome it
Okay.
completely, I think.
Congrats.
As of now, because
Yeah.
and I don't struggle with that problem anymore. I've learned to just smile and just nod and not get stressed.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's your plan then with your kids? You're not sending them to academies. You're not following the Korean standard norm of, education. Are you just giving your kids the option to do whatever they want to do?
I'm observing my kids at this point.
Okay.
Because just because they came out of my belly doesn't mean they're like me. They are a different being, and I need time to really analyze and get to know them.
Okay.
So there was this education expert who said the most important thing you can do as a parent is watch how they play to see what type of a person they are. So that's how important playing is. And my kids are young; they're still like second grade elementary and kindergarten. They need to play. They need time to play. And as a parent, I want to just be observative for now to get hints of what areas they could excel at and what areas they maybe need work on. I don't think it's time for me to like step in and be like, okay, let's go to this academy because I feel like you lack this skill.
Yeah.
I think for now it's just let them be kids, observe, and then just find the right direction, and then I'll move on from that. I just don't feel like academies help in helping me observe my kids. They're just going to institutions and doing whatever the teachers say.
Yeah.
Well, what is that going to tell me about my kids?
So what if the kids come back one day to you, be like, so my friend Minji and my other friend Seoin is going to academy to study and hang out and eat tteokbokki. But because you're not enrolling me into academy, I can't hang out with them.
Yeah.
Can you enroll me to an academy so I can hang out with them? Would you say yeah, or would you tell your kids otherwise that there could be other options? I feel like I'm putting you on a
no.
pedestal
That's a
here,
good
but-
question because I know certain parents who are sending their kids because precisely of that reason.
Oh, really?
And luckily, I'm not in that position yet because my kid seems to be happy where she is.
Okay, that's good.
I just don't want to be in that position. I try when I meet moms who are kind of has the same education standard as I am.
Okay.
I try really hard to have play dates and hang out together.
Okay.
So that my kid gets the social mingling that she needs in her age.
Okay.
So I really want to try my best to prevent that situation that you just talked about from happening.
Okay.
Because if she feels like she doesn't have friends and she has to go to academies to meet friends, then and if it comes down to that, I feel like I will give in. Maybe one academy then, maybe one.
Sure.
But I don't want that situation. I don't
Yeah.
want to be paying money for my kid to be hanging out with her friends
Right.
at academy.
I mean, I feel like you have your own agenda, your own plan on how
Yeah.
to get your child through education, but then the circumstances of the surroundings and the environment
Right.
that she's in with this super competitive educational society, I feel like that scenario is very possible to happen. And I'm sure you've
Yes.
thought through it,
Yeah.
and hopefully, like,
It won't come down to that.
yeah, hopefully it won't come down to that.
But even if that happens, I will probably say, why don't you invite that friend to our house?
Okay.
And we could have like a sleepover or something.
Oh.
Like, I will try to avoid that situation as much as possible.
Yeah, I think speaking of sleepovers, actually, is sleepover a thing in Korea?
No, it's not.
Yeah, see, I remember, like, I did sleepovers, I mean, even as a guy, not until, maybe up to like middle school-ish. After middle school, guys don't really do sleepovers. They'll have game nights.
Yeah.
You know, they'll play games until like 7 a.m. But sleeping over at a friend's house is really big in North America.
Yes, of course.
But in Korea, it's not really, yeah?
It's not. It's not because
Do you think it roots back to the Confucianism? Or have you attempted to have sleepover parties for your kids?
I just have never had other moms talk about let's have sleepovers for the kids.
Oh, okay.
It's not a thing.
Uh-huh.
And in Korea, I feel like it's like you feel really in debt if you have your kid go sleep over at another person's
okay.
house. I think that's what moms would think.
Okay.
Because it doesn't happen anyway, right? It doesn't happen anyway. It's
Yeah.
not a common thing. If I were to have my kids sleep over at this other mom's house, if it's not a thing and I asked, like, my kid wants to, so can she sleep over, I would feel very uncomfortable because it's like asking a huge favor almost, I feel like.
Okay.
And you know, that's how uncommon it is. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Right? It's not a common thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I naturally also don't do sleepovers, but I do it with my choka, with my in-laws' kids,
Oh,
like
okay.
sister-in-law's kids, and because we're a family, that's possible. But with school friends, it rarely happens.
But would you ever plan one in the future, though?
If my daughter wants, yeah.
Oh, okay. And she
Yeah,
would
yeah.
she'll naturally get to know about the concept.
Right.
Okay.
She's had sleepovers with her cousins,
Okay.
not just with her friends.
Okay, cool. So we talked a lot about childhood education so far.
Yeah.
But what about you? You grew up in two different countries. And so with the American cultural background and the Korean cultural backgrounds, what sort of difficulties do you face from time to time?
Socially, like making friends in Korea.
In any way.
I realized throughout my years living in Korea, I cannot become close friends with Korean. Like Korean moms who's born and raised in Korea. I
Why
didn't
is
want
it
to
that?
admit it, but I think at the end, just the way of thinking is quite different. And the topic of conversations is quite different. So my closest friends are Koreans, but they have lived abroad for at least like 5 years or
Okay.
so. And they're the ones that I can connect with in a deep level. So that's where the struggle was, I think. It took me quite a long time to realize that I can't befriend a Korean because I'm a very Korean person, I feel like. But I realized I actually wasn't when I
Okay.
started talking with a lot of Korean people who are born and raised in Korea.
What was the most difficult part for you to converse properly with a Korean?
Topics of conversation
What kind of
was
topics?
quite limited.
Oh, limited.
So I like talking about many aspects of life. Books, travel, movies, celebrities, TV shows, my career, my kids, like all those things is what I'm interested. But with Korean moms that I've met, I'm not speaking for all the Korean moms out there. I don't know if it was because I met as a mom and in a mom kind of environment. Like 70% of the time was all about children and their education, and then some subjects about like TV, like celebrities and things like that. So I felt like I wasn't connecting in a deeper level. Like I wanted to lead the conversation into different types of topics, but it would just cut short and then go back to the topics that are very most talked about amongst moms, which is their kids' education.
I feel like what you just mentioned about you meeting them as a mom of a mother of a kid. You're meeting them as their mother or the mother of their kid.
Right.
And so they don't want to go deeper than just mom to mom level.
I don't know if...
Well, I wouldn't know because I didn't have that interaction.
I had this experience in the US as well, actually.
Really?
In college, when I met students who were born and raised in Korea but only came to college in the US. So they're basically Korean. They just learned English in the Korea, so they were able to come to college in the US. I felt the same way with them. They're obviously not moms, so they don't talk about children, but they talk about a very limited number of subjects.
Oh, really?
I want to be careful about what they were talking about, but it was quite same all the time.
Oh, okay.
Whereas when I met my Korean American friends who are like second generation Korean, who were born and raised in the US, the conversations were so different. And I felt more comfortable there.
I see. Well, thank you so much for the interview.
Yeah, are we finished?
Yeah. It's all good. Thank you so much.
No problem.